Dr. Shela Muray Bethel.
3 questions. Am I a value-added person? Was this a value-added transaction? Are we a value-added organization? New, different, better, fast, and more. It's the only way you can do it to increase that added value, that customer service. Now, when we want to focus on our priorities, we want to produce excellent results. So we have to figure out what it is we're doing, how well we do it, what needs improvement, how can we get better, what processes can we use, what procedures, what attitudes, what aptitudes, what philosophies. We're forgetting that one of the nicest things that Jules can say to me is, "Thanks, Shela," or something. "You're welcome." And you know, it doesn't have to be a big deal. It just can be a hand on the shoulder. "Hey, Reggie, I'm really proud you're with us in this store. You made that customer feel really good. Even if you didn't sell the bed right at that time, hey, they may be back. But from what you did, we're going to get referrals because you were really good today." It is called the ability to build partnerships, networks, and alliances. That is the thing that will make you individually and collectively successful in this 21st century.
One of America's finest business speakers. One of America's sharpest business minds. Dr. Shela Muray Bethel. Business savvy, people smart. With a PhD in communications, she has authored 4 books, including the national bestseller, Making a Difference, 12 Qualities That Make You a Leader. Inducted into the Speakers Hall of Fame and named one of the 21 top speakers for the 21st century by Successful Meetings magazine, Dr. Bethel is an expert on leadership, customer focus, and communication skills.
Good afternoon. I'm delighted to be with you. They're going to turn the house lights up so I can see you, and I know you can see me. I'm glad to see so many people on a beautiful afternoon. Thank you for coming. And you're still wide awake and ready to go. You obviously don't have the problem that the mother had when she went in to wake up her daughter to go to school. She says, "Come on, sweetheart, time to get up and go to school." The daughter says, "But I don't want to go." And the mother says, "Get up, you're going to be late." And the daughter says, "Give me 2 reasons why." And the mother said, "For heaven's sakes, you're 46 years old and you're the principal." So in our short time that we have together today, I'd like to share with you some ideas that I have learned around the world, working with leaders in all walks of life, things I've experienced in my own life, trying to lead organizations. And there are some principles, some ideas to share. And I, too, would like to start out by congratulating the new recipients. In our profession of speaking and training, we have an important designation that we work very hard at. And I know that you folks that have done this have put in many, many hours. And as Marcia said, the spouses and helpers also deserve the acknowledgement. So I'm delighted and honored to be here in this particular part of your program. Today, in the world in which we live, when we look at leadership, you know, we lead at home, we lead in the community, we lead at work. Leadership is not just for the highest educated, the people with the highest title, the richest or the most famous. It is for everyone. Everyone can make a difference through their leadership. And that's the good news about it. It's a very exciting thing to do, to say, by gosh, I'm going to pick up the mantle of leadership and give it a try. I'd like to give you the 3 drivers, the leadership drivers for the 21st century that I have seen as I travel around the world. And if you happen to be note takers and have a piece of paper and want to take some notes, let me give you some ideas to take back and to share with those who are not here. Driver number 1, of course, we all know it. We live with it every single day. Driver number 1 is called change. We live in an era of incredible change, unprecedented change. We have never, ever, as a society and as a world, gone through so much change as those of us that are here today have recently. You know, if you think about it, you and I together, we have gone through more change in this last year than our parents did in 10 years. What an incredible time to be alive. How many know and feel that you've gone through business change in the last year? Raise your hand. Silly question, isn't it? How about 6 months? 2 months? 2 weeks? 20 minutes? Have you called? Is the office still there? Change, we live with it every day. We know there's change in business. But there's also been change in our personal lives. You know, we had a national census here in the United States recently, and I saw a little clipping in the newspaper that talked about it. It said, in the most recent national census, it counted 1 million more women than men who are separated from their spouses. And it went on to say, well, that's either a mistake or there are about 1 million men who haven't yet noticed that their wives have left. I don't want to touch that. I don't know what that means about the men or the women. I just know that we have gone through so much change. I do want to give you a good piece of news about change, though, because I know it might be appropriate for a good news statement. You know what? The world is changing so fast, ladies and gentlemen, you can't even stay wrong for too long anymore. Just hang in, you'll probably be right next month. It is changing that fast. Driver number one, it is pushing us, it is pulling us. Change every time we turn around. No wonder we sometimes feel a little overwhelmed by it. It's okay. We're all in the same boat. Change is a hard thing to handle, but it is the number one driver, and the leader leading at home, in the community, at work, has to understand how hard it is for people to change. Be a little patient, a little kind, cut people a little slack, and as the teenagers say, chill out. Relax a little more. Driver number two, Marcia mentioned it, and I want to share it with you. You already know it. It is called the ability to build partnerships, networks, and alliances. That is the thing that will make you individually and collectively successful in this 21st century. Why? Because there's not enough time anymore to learn everything we have to know on our own. We have to be able to call somebody across the office, across town, across the city, across the state, across the country, around the world, and say, hey, I've got this issue. Can you give me a hand? Can you help? We want to network, and we want to build those powerful alliances. Third driver, change is first. Networking, partnership, and alliances is two. And three is understanding the difference between customer service and customer focus. And I'm going to talk more about that as I go on. But those are the three drivers, and that's what a leader has to be aware of. Watch the trends. Watch what happens. Keep your antenna out. Keep your ears open. Keep a pad and pencil near you at all times so you can stay on top of it and capture those ideas that help you be a more effective leader. And when it comes to leadership, the number one word, Marcia also mentioned that. I was so glad she said it, because the main word to start with today is the word called commitment. Commitment's the key. It helps us in the tough times. It makes it easier in the good times. Commitment is the glue that holds it all together. It's the fire in the belly. To be a leader who makes a difference, commitment is what it takes. You know the old story about the chicken and the pig walking down the country road early in the morning, time to have something to eat. And they pass an old-fashioned eatery, and the sign says breakfast, bacon and eggs, $1.79. And the chicken gets all puffed up and says, well, would you look at that? What would breakfast be without my contribution? The pig said, it's okay for you, it's a contribution. For me, it's total commitment. That's a good one to bring into the 21st century, because I do believe that in this age, our commitment makes the difference. So let me give you the 4 F's that I think will make excellent leaders, that help you in your personal life, in your business life, and in the community leadership that you're involved with. The 4 F's of excellent leadership in the 21st century. First, number 1 is flexible. That's change. Being able to turn on a dime, go in a new direction tomorrow. That ability of a leader to be able to throw it away and start again if it's wrong. Take a new idea from the bottom and help build it up by empowering others to share and to grow together. That flexibility of not getting stuck in how it used to be done, how we used to do it, how we've always done it. That doesn't work anymore. We have to be flexible. In my 50-plus years on this planet, I've gone through a lot of change in my life. I've gone from poverty and lack to abundance and great comfort. I've gone from death's door, serious illness, to health and vitality. I've gone from broken relationships and dreams to happiness and lifetime goals. And I have gone from that bitterness of failure to that sweetness of success. And I have learned from others, and I have found out through my own gifts that God's given me in these times of challenge is one thing, under change, under flexibility, is this. Ladies and gentlemen, we must always expect to succeed. Expecting to succeed. Say yes. Come on, team. Get together. We'll do it. Come on. Husband, wife, child, mother, father, friend. Come on. Let's pull together. We'll make it work. This is a tough time, but we'll do it together. And in the good times saying, yes, let's keep it going, expecting to succeed. I don't know about you, but children in our area where we live in the San Francisco Bay Area, they still sell lemonade and cookies in the summertime out in the front of their house. And I love to watch these little entrepreneurs. I always buy. I want to encourage them. And this summer, I went out in front and I saw my little neighbor kids. They were selling cookies and lemonade. And I don't know about you, but inflation has hit. Cookies are now 50 cents, and a little thing of lemonade is $1. But I bought anyway. Well, here, example about expecting to succeed. A little girl goes out in front of her house. And those of you who may have been in sales and are in sales and have heard this, but it's a good idea. It's a good kernel of truth. Little girl goes out in front of her house. She's got a sign on the front of a table. And there she stands, cheeks a scrub, bows in her hair, cute little dress. And she's standing there. And on that sign it says, "Dog for sale, $1,000. The trouble is, sitting on top of the table is the ugliest dog you have ever seen. There she stands with great expectation, though, and the man who lives next door backs out of his driveway, and he sees that sweet little girl standing there with great expectation, and he doesn't want her to be hurt by the world of sales called rejection. So he goes over and he said, "Sweetheart," he said, "honey, do you think maybe you could lower the price a little bit? Because that's a lot of money." Or, "Sweetheart, could you get another dog? Because, honey, that's a really ugly dog." She looks at him and she says, "Somebody will buy." He said, okay. He's not going to argue with an 8-year-old. He goes off to work, comes home that night, and across the front of that sign in big red letters is the word yes. He goes up to the door. He knocks at the door. She comes out. He said, "Sweetheart, you sold that dog?" She said, "I did." He said, "You got $1,000? She said, "I got more than $1,000. I got $1.59 in cash and 2 $500 cats." See, the beauty of it is the kids just don't know it can't be done. A leader today, the kernel of truth is this, that a leader today has to have childlike expectation. Childlike faith. Not childish, but childlike. Saying, I have faith in my own God-given skills and talents and abilities. I have faith in yours. I have faith in my family. I have faith in my team. Because you see, to expect to succeed uplifts everybody. It encourages everyone. In the 60s, late 60s, I trained brain-damaged children. And in those days, I learned a lot about this idea of human potential and human growth. And one of the things that we saw at the institute where I worked is that when a family brought a child in, the child's progress depended upon the expectation of the parents. If the parents had high expectations and faith and would get in and work and help, the children made wonderful progress. But those that came in that didn't have supportive parents or family or friends and had low expectations, the children didn't exceed their own expectations either. And that's a line I learned. I've had it on my bathroom mirror for over 30 years. I have it on the refrigerator. I don't know if you put things on your refrigerator, but I have signs all over it. Let me give you a key, and it goes like this. It says, I will never exceed my own highest expectations. That's the key. Expecting to succeed. As a leader in this day and age, we live in a world that is far too cynical. We don't need any more cynics. We got enough cynics. The world is hungry for people like you who are absolutely devoted to professionalism, to self-improvement. And you know what you can do when you expect to succeed? You can become the most powerful thing a leader can be, and that's a hope giver. People are just dying to have someone give them some hope and saying, yes, I expect you to do it. You can do it. It'll be better when you try. Even if you don't work it out so well, try again. I'll help you. Being a hope giver, that's a key about expecting to succeed, being flexible. Now, I talk about change, and you hear about it all the time. Everybody talks about it. We should change, we should change, we should change. Let me play the other side of that for a second. You know what, ladies and gentlemen? We should also, as a leader, know what to defend against change. There are some things in this world that are worth defending against change. Our morals, our ethics, our values. Those things that make you, as a human being, an individual, what you are. The things, the values that make the CPCU society so important in the world of insurance. The contribution that you make, those are worth defending, because if we lose that, we lose our very soul of what we are. And I think that in this day and age, in this wonderful 21st century that we live with, filled with so many opportunities, and yes, challenges, but opportunities galore, I think the most powerful question that a leader should ask him or herself is this, and it is, what do I stand for? When you know what you stand for, you talk about fire in the belly. It affects everything you do. It affects how you walk, how you talk, how you dress, who you associate with, who you work with. It can change lives when you know what you stand for. It is the fire in the belly. It is very exciting. And so I challenge you to say to yourself, what do I stand for? You probably already know, but it's a wonderful question to keep asking, because it brings out the biggest us inside of us. It also takes something away from us. When we know what we stand for, it takes away the luxury of irresponsibility, because when we know what we stand for, we can't just stand around anymore, not do something about it. And it's a wonderful thing to do, to make a difference in this world by saying, what do I stand for? Change, change, change. But let me give you the clarion call for change into the 22nd century. And it is going to be this. It is change before you're forced to. It's going to change. And we might as well make the changes ourselves before somebody else makes the changes for us. What's the second F? First was flexible. The second is focused. Being absolutely laser beam focused. On what? Well, first of all, is to have a mission that matters. I write about it in the book. It means, what are you excited about? What do you get up early about? What do you stay up late about? A mission that matters. I loved seeing the film clip of President John F. Kennedy. A mission that matters is something that he did, and a mission is something that empowers other people, imbues in them the wish to be bigger and grow better and contribute. And John F. Kennedy stood before the joint houses of Congress in 1960, and he said to the world, by the end of the decade, we will put a man on the moon. And everybody around the world said, yes, we're going to do that. Yes, they can do that. And for the next 15 years, 1 out of every 4 jobs was attached to the space program. And there's a legend about one of the early executives in that space program went down to what was then still called Cape Canaveral, and went down into that little block where they were building the little computers that are so, compared today, we're so puny, but we're going to send our men into space. And the executive went down and he saw a lady, and he wanted to test if everybody was really empowered and excited about it. And he said to her, she was cleaning the stairs, scrubbing them the old-fashioned way with a bucket and a brush. And he says to her, he said, excuse me, but what is your job here? She looked at him. She said, my job? My job's to put a man on the moon. I have a question for you. Is your mission that you're excited about, could the people that you work with and for, whether you're or at home or in the community, do they understand what your mission is? Are they excited about it? If they are, it's wonderful, because you will get people to follow you that way. A mission that matters. You see, one of the big differences between management and leadership, we all need managers. We need good managers. But management is the how-to. Leadership is the why. And when you have a mission that matters, you know what you stand for. That's the why of it all. Making people understand that they're valuable, that they make a difference. It's a very exciting thing to be able to do. Being focused. Focused just about a mission that matters, but also being focused on this. It is a quote that I have in the book I wrote, and some of you may see it, and it says this, that we lead first by example. Everything we say, everything we do sends a message, sets a tone, or teaches people what to do or what not to do. Everything. When you say you're going to be a leader, oh boy, do they put you under the microscope and they watch. My oldest son, Mike, had our first grandchild, Mike Jr., and we call him MJ. And my son brought him over, and MJ at that time was about 14 months old. And Mike had him on his hip, and you know how a baby will straddle the hip. And Mike came in, he was holding the little guy, and Mike and I were talking. And in college, Mike was a debate champ. So one of the things we do for fun is we take a topic and take the opposite sides and just go at it. And so we were having a really good debate, and he was holding little MJ. Now my son has an arm movement that he uses when he debates that he likes to use to intimidate. He goes like this big arm movement. And little MJ, he's watching Dad, watching Grandma, watching Dad, watching Grandma. And when he figures out that we're all through, gets a big grin on his face and goes. And Mike said, oh, Mom. I said, welcome to parenthood, son. He is going to learn more about how to act and live in this world by your words and your actions than anything else that goes on out there in the world. Leading by example. You see, the word is congruity. When you walk your talk. You know what? When you walk your talk, everybody wins. And when you don't, unfortunately, everybody loses. I think that a leader today needs to start each morning. Before you start your work, say to yourself, what message am I going to send today by my example? What message am I sending to the people that are going to follow me, and try to help them to be the best that they can be? Leading by example. Now, also, what do we want to focus on? We want to focus on continuing the professionalism that you have all brought to your industry through this designation. Continuing professionalism. Always to be as good as you can be. How many of you have ever ridden with what I would call a professional taxi cab driver? Have you? I'll tell you, in my city where I live, San Francisco, everything is built up. As you probably know, there's no real estate. Nothing is built out. It's built up. And our front door is 56 steps from the street. Now, the bad news is, when I call a taxi cab driver to take me out to the airport to go off and speak or whatever, they drive up, they see those steps, they're not coming up those 56 steps. They pull up in the driveway downstairs and they just honk the horn. And I have to drag my bags down. I got up early one morning, I was going across the country, early flight. I called and they said, well, cab will be there in a few minutes. Wasn't just a few minutes, it was instantaneous. Bam, the front doorbell rang, and I said to Bill, I said, honey, who could be here so fast? For heaven's sakes, it's so early. And I went to the top of those 56 steps. I opened the front door. There was a man standing there. I was shocked to see anybody. And let me tell you what he looked like. Gentlemen, do you remember when there was a time that you used to like to wear what we called polyester leisure suits? Green. Big fat wide tie, too short, couldn't tuck in his trousers. A little Irish cap on his head and a smile from ear to ear, and he says, good morning, I'm here to take you to the airport. I said, you're my cab driver? He said, I am indeed. Do you have any bags this morning? I said, yes. And I gave it to him, and he went down. Now, I got ready very quickly. I followed him down. I went down and there was the cleanest cab you have ever seen. You could have eaten off of the trunk or the hood. He saw me coming. He rushes over. He opens the back door. I get in. He closes the door. And on the back seat next to me were 3 morning newspapers nicely lined up for me to read. And I thought, wow, this is really nice. He gets in the front, closes the door, puts his arm over the back seat, and with a big smile on his face, he said, you know, it's so nice to have you with me this morning. I was so shocked, I almost said, it's nice to be had. He said, shall we go now? I said, that'd be real nice. We're driving down the highway. He said, would you like to have a cup of coffee this morning? I said, I can't stop. I have a plane to make. He says, oh, no, you don't understand. He goes into the glove compartment. He comes out with 2 styrofoam cups. He takes one, he gives me one, and up off of the front seat, he's got a thermos of hot coffee. Now, I want to tell you, I don't like coffee. But my mother gave me good manners. If he's pouring, I'm drinking. He drops me off at the airport. That's a Tuesday. I'm out around the country doing my speeches during the week. On Friday, I'm not even back yet. He calls my office and he says to my assistant, Linda, he said, now, introduces himself, tells her his name is Frank, and he said, now let me say, next week, what airline is she taking? What time? If she has extra bags or boxes, not to worry. He said, I will be there to pick her up. Or if I'm off duty, I will make sure that somebody else is there. Not to worry. He said, I am now in charge of transportation. Linda said, excuse me? And you know what? For 2 years, I never called another cab. He was there every single time. In fact, in the beginning of our relationship, I started to take him a croissant to go with the coffee. Frank was so good. I got in the cab with him one morning. We've been riding together for about 6 months. And I said, Frank, you are so good. You have taken cab driving to the highest level of professionalism. What is your secret? And he said, well, I have several. I said, well, would you share? And he said, sure, let me give you the most important. He reaches into his wallet, opened it up, pulls out a 4x6 card. And he said, look, Sheila, I come in the morning. Before I leave to pick up my first customer, he says, I want to make sure I'm right on it, that I'm focused on what makes me good at what I do. And he showed me this list, and it looked like the checkoff list of a 757 airplane. He said, in the morning before I leave, to be sure, I get out that list every morning, and I look at it, and I check it off, check off those items, check it off, oops, check that one out, check it off, check it off, check it off, check it off. And I thought, thank you, Lord. This is such an incredible example. Frank, you talk about accountability, responsibility. He was absolutely a pro. You know, and what was best of all about Frank? Frank was CEO of Frank. And wouldn't we all like to be CEO of us? You see, that's the key, building that professionalism. I call it lifelong learning. Continuous learning. You see, once you get a wonderful designation like you have, it's just the beginning. It's the place where now you get to shine. You've gone through all the hard work. Now you get to show your professionalism. But there's one thing I've learned over the last 35, 40 years, is that school's never out for the leader. Never a time when we can stop learning. There's a wonderful expression that says, the person who won't read isn't any better off than the person who can't read. It's the key. Reading is the key. So we learn and we grow. And now it's so wonderful. We have cassettes on tape and all sorts of ways to read and get the information that we need. But I challenge you for this. I challenge you to have your own written personal development study plan. What are you going to do now? What are you going to do next week, next month, next year? You see, there's no time to stop growing, and it feels good when you reach a goal, as you have and as I have. But the challenge to both of us is to say, what am I going to do now? My lifelong learning. I have 2 French granddaughters. They live in Paris. One of my sons moved to France, married a French woman. My 2 French granddaughters, up until now, hugs and kisses on the telephone have worked. A little French, a little English, you know, little kisses back and forth. That was fine. But I now have 2 very gorgeous, beautiful, fall-down, gorgeous French coquette granddaughters. And Grandma needs to learn to speak French, because they are coming to stay with us, and one of my goals now is to be really fluent in French, particularly teenage fluent. That's a different kind of language. That's one of my goals. And you have 3 things. Big challenge for you, and I know it, is you've got to continually build your business skills, your people skills, and your technical skills at exactly the same time. That's a big order. I saw a wonderful cartoon in Computer Magazine. I love to look at these technical magazines and try to learn. Cute cartoon. There was a computer, person standing next to it, and over the computer were the words, the bubble, and it said, I can be upgraded, can you? We have to constantly upgrade ourselves. So you see, focusing on professionalism and lifelong learning, that's very, very important for our own personal feelings that we really can make a difference, and to the example that we set to others. Now, I promised you earlier that I would share a little bit more with you about customer service and customer focus. Do you remember that I said management is about how, and we have to be very good at the how? Leadership is the why, to empower and excite people. Customer focus and customer service is very close to the same thing. Customer service is the how, knowing how to do it. But customer focus, which is a very big difference, is why we do what we do. Bill and I went downtown San Francisco to do some shopping. And we were going into a department store. And I said to him, sweetheart, why are we going in here when the world-famous retailer, Nordstrom's, you know, Nordy's? Nordstrom's, it's just 2 doors down. We could go buy it there. And he said, well, honey, because they don't have what I want. We have to go here. I said, yeah, but the legend is that Nordstrom's will come over here, buy the item, and sell it to us through their store. And he says, oh, I don't really want to go to that much trouble. And I said, okay, fine. So we went into the store. And Bill got what he wanted. Lady put it in the bag. He signed the credit card slip, put the slip in the bag, closed it up, gave it to Bill, and we started to walk away. And as we walked away, the lady that sold it to us, it was very embarrassing because she yelled out loud. She said, hey, you two, come back here. And gosh, we were embarrassed. We ran over very quickly, and Bill said, yes, what is it? She said, give me that bag. So he gave her the bag. She goes in, she reaches in, pulls out the sales receipt, slaps it down on the counter, and writes across it, thank you. And handed it back. And then she said, we have to do that now that Nordstrom's is in town. As we walked away, I said, sweetheart, I think she's a little unclear on the concept. Whoa. Somebody told her how, but boy, somebody sure didn't tell her why. Not too long after that, the extreme opposite example. Bill and I went off to visit a client. Now, if you know anything about the San Francisco Bay Area, it's like a jelly bean. But with traffic being what it is, you can take 2 hours just to get around the bay. So Bill and I had gone over to meet with a client, and we were talking about doing some consulting work in sales and leadership and communications, etc. And one of the executives said to us as we were leaving, Shela and Bill, would you be able to get us your full proposal by Saturday morning, because we're having an executive retreat and we want to make our mind up of which of the 3 firms that we were interviewing, you included, that we're going to hire. And we said, oh, absolutely, just be happy to do that. So we left. Bill and I got in the car. He's driving, sitting there. I'm in the passenger seat. And we're talking about, oh my gosh, how in the world are we going to get this done? Because I had to go on the road for 2 or 3 days. Bill was really busy on some things. And we said, you know, I don't think we can even put it in Amex or FedEx and just overnight it just across the bay. He said, you know what, honey, we're going to have to get up Saturday morning and drive it over ourselves because we've got to keep our commitment to good service. And I said, you're right. Just as he said that, I looked out next to us, driving down the highway, 55, 60 miles an hour. was a white van, and written on the side of the van were the words, "Express It, Bay Area Courier Service, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week," and a telephone number. And I said, thank you, God. You know, God gives us little presents every now and then, just to remind us that He's there. I grabbed a piece of paper and pencil, and I was writing the telephone number down that was on the side of the van. And the young man that was driving the van saw me, and he tooted the horn, and he waved at me. So I waved back. And in sign language, he said, "Do you want us?" I said, "Yes." I'm writing it down. He says, "No, no, no." And it's 60 miles an hour down the highway. He rolls down his window. He's going to try to hand me a brochure. Guess who the dummy is? It's going to go over and roll her window down. Bill said, "Sheila, don't do that. This is way too dangerous." So I signaled. I said to him, "No, no, no. It's okay. I will call you." He said, "Okay," toots his horn, off he goes. And as he drove away, I saw on the back an ID number, and I wrote that down. We went back to the office, signed up for their service, and I said to the lady who answered the phone, I said, "If I give you the telephone number of, the ID number of one of your vans, could you tell me who was driving?" She said, "Sure." So I gave her the number, she told me, and I said, "Let me tell you something. You got to give that kid a raise." He really understands what customer service and customer focus is. But I want to tell you something. I did not say where I met him. I wanted to get him a raise, not get him fired. You see, the key that I found out, and it was so funny because both of those experiences were so close together. Let me give you what I have, in my opinion, is the bottom line of customer service and customer focus. It's one question, and it permeates everything that I do, permeates everything you do, with every person you deal with, every interaction, and it is a sentence, and it's a question to answer to stay on top of it. It goes like this: how do I make it easy to do business with me? We all want people to make it easy to do business with. So we need to, as leaders in your industry, hopefully in my industry, that we make it easy for people to deal with us. And every company that I talk to, I say, put up signs, put up banners, make cards, put it on people's desks, put it in their cars, trucks, everywhere that anyone ever comes in contact with a customer, whether the customer is internal or external, and say, how do I make it easy to do business with me? Because that's the key to really, really understanding customer service and customer focus. By the way, I want to tell you what I decided to do when I retire from this speaking business. I'm going to apply to work at Walmart. I want to be a Walmart greeter. Wouldn't that be a great job? 4 hours a day, you get to stand there and hug cute little babies and shake people's hands and welcome them and give them as much help as possible. What a great way to live. Focus. We want to be sure we focus on a mission, on our example, on being professional, on lifelong learning, and customer service and customer focus. Now, what's the third F? The third F is the word called fostering. Fostering. What do I mean by that? I mean that we need to foster several things. One, we did it earlier. Marcia talked about it. We need to foster an environment wherever we operate that people network. We need to help others come together, bring our ideas, the excitement, the enthusiasm, come together to learn. And a leader must be very aware of how he or she is fostering a networking environment. Because that's going to be the key, not just for us, but for everybody else. So first of all, network. Get rid of unnecessary paperwork and processes that really don't need to be there. Take a hard look at them and say, how can we cut out that and get people networking? Now, what else do we want to foster? Well, I call it being a cheerleader, fostering other people's confidence and self-esteem. And we want to do that, to be a cheerleader to other people, to help them, to help their confidence and their competence. Look at two C's. Pretend like this C up on top is confidence. And this down here, this C, is competence. As a leader, we have to be sure that whether we are leading at home, in the community, or at work, that we are building both. Because when people have more self-confidence, they're more willing to learn. When they have more competence, when they've learned, they feel better about themselves. And it goes around and around and around. All of the children that we're working with at America's Promise, 15 million children at risk across the country, when we find these children, we see that one of those is missing. They may be smart, but they have no confidence. Or they may have the confidence, but they don't know how to do it. And then the spiral goes this way. Well, it is the same for all of us and for the people that you affect as a leader. So we want to be sure that you're a cheerleader. Make people feel good about themselves and talk about what it is they do well and help them learn what they need to learn. As you can imagine, my career keeps me on the road a lot. I travel a lot. And I have a wonderful housekeeper. Her name is Bertha, and I don't know what I would possibly do without her. And the routine is usually this. I'm usually on the road on a Tuesday night. I will call her home, talk to her about what she's going to do on Wednesdays, because she comes on Wednesdays to clean house. Well, what happened was, one Wednesday, I wasn't on the road. I was home, and Bill and I had a meeting off with a client, but we were there when she arrived. And so when she came in, we talked, and I said, Bertha, we're having a dinner party Saturday night, and if you could do a little extra here, a little extra there, we'd sure appreciate it. She is so great. She says, well, who's coming, and what are you going to wear, and what's on the menu? And she was just wonderful. We love her. So we went off to our meeting. And we came home that night, and the house was absolutely incredible, sparkling. And we said, she's fabulous. And I went right out to my desk, and I got a little note card. And I wrote, and I said, Dear Bertha, you are so fabulous. We love you. And then I listed the things that she did particularly well. And at the bottom I put, don't you dare ever leave us. I don't know what we'd do without you. Love, Mr. and Mrs. Bethel. And I sent it. I didn't think anything more of it. The next Tuesday, I'm on the road, and I call her house, and her son answers. And I said, can I talk to your mom? And he said, well, she's not here right now. She went shopping. Can you call back in a couple of minutes? I said, sure, not a problem. And he says, but wait, Miss Bethel, before you hang up, I want to tell you something. He said, my mother has been cleaning other people's houses for 25 years. She's put 3 of us through college. And in all those years, she's never received a thank you note like you sent. And my heart went from here to here, and I said, I'll call back. And he said, wait, before you hang up, I want to tell you something. We were so proud of her that, Miss Bethel, I took that little note, and I got a pretty little frame, and I framed it, and we hung it in the living room. And my heart was right up here, and I said, I'm going to hang up now. You see, Thoreau wrote that people lead lives of quiet desperation. And the problem is, you see, we don't always know what's going on in the hearts of people. We don't know what burdens they carry, or what sorrows they have, or what difficulties they're having. People put on a good face. They come to work, they try to do their best, they smile. We don't really know. We can't tell by the exterior of what's going on inside of people. And wouldn't it be magnificent for you as a leader to be able to praise someone honestly for something well done and make them feel good about themselves, because you never know the person that needs that so much that day, that place, that time. So I have another challenge for you. You know I'm full of challenges, as you can guess by now. Here's another challenge for you. Say to yourself, who can I praise tonight? Can you call someone? Can you write a note? Tomorrow morning, can you call? Can you leave a voicemail? Who can I praise? Because I truly believe that the leader thinks in the morning several things, says, what's my message? What do I stand for? And who can I uplift and be a cheerleader to today? Because that's my job as a leader. Fostering. The other thing that we have to foster is perspective. Boy, it's hard to keep it in perspective sometimes. Anybody here read The Tale of Two Cities? Do you remember? First page, first paragraph, first line. It said, That's right. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was that way 100 years ago when the book was written. It's that way now, and it'll be that way 100 years from now. There's always the good, the bad, the yin and the yang, always happening at the same time. So to keep things in perspective is so critically important. And one of the skills that I write about and that I talk about all the time, sometimes people don't put in leadership courses or in leadership books, and it's called having a sense of humor, developing a sense of humor, keeping your antenna up, because a leader who can walk into a situation that might be stressful or troublesome or just overly heavy, if you can walk in as a leader and use a sense of humor to lighten everybody's load, give everybody a 30-second mental vacation and send them on their way, using that wonderful perspective, being able to keep it in perspective, to be able to laugh at yourself and the situation. 2.5 years ago, my husband had a heart attack and ended up, had surgery. They did the roto-rooter, and they did the angioplast, and then they put 2 stents in his arteries, and he's fine. He's just perfectly healthy, but it was pretty scary. And I sat there, and when he came out of surgery, the doctor came out, and he said, Bill, you got to walk more. Now, we walk a lot anyway, but we listen to him. And he said, you don't have to go to the gym or any of that stuff, and you don't have to buy all of that special stuff you wear. Just get a good pair of shoes and keep on walking every day, 30 minutes a day. And I thought about it, and I thought about this ability to lighten the load, and because Bill and I were pretty worried. And I looked at the doctor. I said, Doctor, it is wonderful. You mean we don't have to buy spandex? And he said, no, why? I said, lift the blanket up, picked my husband's leg up, and I said, look at this. This is the skinniest leg you've ever seen. You put spandex on my husband, and it wrinkles. We laughed, and I tried so hard to bring the laughter into it, because laughter's healing. Foster perspective, keeping it in perspective. Young girl was in college, and she wanted to have her parents keep some things in perspective, and she wrote a little note, and she said to them, Dear Mom and Dad, I'm sorry that I've not written to you for so long, but all my stationery was lost the night the dormitory was burned down by the demonstrators. I'm out of the hospital now. The doctor says my eyesight should return to normal sooner or later. The wonderful boy Bill, who rescued me from the fire, kindly offered to share his apartment with me until I found a new place to live. You always wanted a grandchild. So you'll be glad to know that you'll be grandparents next month. Love, Mary. P.S. Please disregard the above exercise in creative writing. There hasn't been any fire. I haven't been in the hospital. I'm not pregnant. In fact, I don't even have a boyfriend. But I did get a D in French and an F in mathematics, and I wanted to be sure that you receive this news in its proper perspective. Fostering humor is it's a God-given gift to be able to laugh. What is the last one? What is the fourth one? It's called family. That's not new to you, not this group. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say a few words about it. You see, I know the bottom line of business is to make money, certainly keep people employed, keep a lifestyle that is, in this country, second to none. But the bottom line of life, the real bottom line, is those that we love and those that love us. And at your ability, you see, in this business that you're in, you help people. You help families. You help people so that their lives are easier and so that they can enjoy time together more without worry of consequences. And so when we look at that, we want to say, am I able to keep my personal life in balance and my business life in balance? Because my example counts. But I want to tell you something. I want to take you off the hook so you don't think that there's something heavy here. There's no such thing as perfect balance between our business life and our personal life. It does not exist. But the best thing that we can do for ourselves and those we love is just think about it. Keep it in our mind every single day. Do little things that matter. You see, I've never known anyone who laid on their deathbed and said, oh, I wish I'd spent more time at the office. You see, in my family, I have one sister. My mother and father wanted a son. No such luck. I was born. I was appointed boy of the family. My dad loved me and I loved him, but in those days, dads were kind of straight-laced and they weren't allowed to hug and kiss as we can now. And my mother and I got along great, but my dad and I had a special relationship. I was the boy. And I got married very young, right out of high school, had Mike before I was 19, had my other son Shannon before I was 21, went off and started my family. 7 years after I'd been married, my father retired and moved out to the country in a nice little house for my mother to enjoy his retirement. Early on, very early on in his retirement, he called me one day on the telephone, and in a very emotional voice he said, "Sheila," he said, "will you please meet me for lunch today? I need to talk." And I said, "Sure, Dad, I will." And I met my dad for lunch. And I sat there for 3.5 hours across the luncheon table from my dad, and I listened to him talk about his regrets over the commitments that he didn't keep to himself. He said, "You know, after the Depression," he said, "I wanted to go back to school and finish getting my degree." And he said, "I could have done that." He says, "But I don't know what happened. I didn't. And I promised your mother that I would buy her some things and take her some places, but those commitments didn't seem to happen much either." And he said, "How did you and your sister grow up so fast? It was like sand that slipped through my fingers." And he said, "I wanted to take you some places and talk to you about so many, many things." And he says, "And now it's too late because you're grown up and so is she." And he said, "Sheila," he said, "it's too late." He said, "Because this morning, the doctor tells me I have 6 months left to live." And then he looked across the table and he asked me the most terrible question. He said, "Sweetheart, what am I going to do now?" And I said, "I don't know, Daddy." Because what he'd done is he'd come out the road of life. He was standing at the end looking back, filled with regret over the business and personal commitments that he didn't keep to himself. And almost 6 months to the day, he did pass away. And when he did, I thought about all those things that he had told me that day. And he left me a legacy that day because he told me 3 things that changed my life from now on, and on to when I'm gone. And I passed it to my children. And let me share with you. He said, "Sheila, when it comes to your commitments," he said, "don't put them off. Do it now. Do it." And I thought about that every day. 7 years passed. I was a single mother raising my 2 teenage boys. I was in sales and marketing. And I'd gotten a bonus check for something that I'd done well. And I thought about what my dad said. And I put a little bit in the bank and I took the rest and I went into a travel agency. And I bought 3 airplane tickets. It was in the middle of the winter. And I went home and I asked 2 teenage boys who are snow skiing fanatics the dumbest question possible. I said, "Who'd like to take off school for a week, go skiing?" Is that a dumb question? Saturday afternoon, we went out to San Francisco International Airport. We got on that airplane. We went up the west coast to Calgary, Canada. We got off of that airplane. They picked us up on a bus. They drove us and deposited us at the Banff Springs Hotel. And if you've never seen it, it's like a little castle right in the middle of the mountains. And my 2 sons and I skied for 5 full days, just the 3 of us, and we had an incredible time. And the last day that we were there, we got up very early. We went out to the ski area, and we got up on the chairlift and the gondola, and we went up and 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 up. And at 9 o'clock in the morning, we were the first and only 3 human beings standing at the top of a 9,000-foot mountain. We were above the clouds. And when we looked down below, we could not see the valley floor because there were the clouds. And stretched out in front of us was the Continental Divide, the Canadian Rocky Mountains covered with snow in a crystal clear blue sky. So incredibly beautiful. And I went up to the boys. I said, "Wait a minute, guys, can I go first?" And they said, "Hit it, Mom." So Mom went over to this first ledge, and I got tucked under. And I came off that first ledge and I skied down that icy face, not to the valley floor, just the bottom of that first face. And as I got down to the bottom, I turned around and I looked back up, and here was this huge white face of a mountain, like every postcard and poster that you've ever seen for a beautiful white mountain. And standing all the way up at the top was the pride and the joy of my life. And my commitment was my 2 sons. And I took my ski pole and I signaled. I said, "Come on, Mike. Come on, Shannon." And I watched my 2 Irishmen come down the face of that mountain making figure 8s, crisscrossing. And the only sound that you could hear as they got near me were their skis cutting through that light powdery snow. And it would go whoosh, whoosh. And that light snow would come up in the air and hang just for a second like lace. And when they were standing down in front of me, I knew it made a difference to them. It made a great difference to me. And I knew my dad was up there looking down, and I knew it made a difference what he said to me. And I looked up and I said, "That one was for you, Dad." Ladies and gentlemen, you make a difference in the lives of more people than you can even imagine. Your family, your friends, people in the industry. Each one of you, as a leader, can make a difference. But as my dad said when he talked about commitment, he said, don't put it off. Do it now. Do it. Thank you. God bless. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. You're very kind. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very kindly.
Shela Muray Bethel. Business savvy, people smart.